All right, it's Thursday night football, and we got our boy Ayahuasca Aaron going into New England and taking on the Patriots. It's going to be a pretty exciting one. Obviously, this is what everybody wants to see on a Thursday night: the Jets and the Patriots. Just the most exhilarating football we've seen in a while. So, I think this is going to be a fun show, man. We're going to have to just build and find things that we like.
You mean you don't want to spend 15 minutes talking about the Patriots wide receivers? Aaron Rodgers, actually traditionally pretty decent on Thursday night. A guy like him, where you don't have a lot of prep, you don't have a lot of time to install new shit. Being a quarterback, being a coach out on the field is huge. This is a tough one, man. It's Thursday night division rivalry. It's got a low total. I would not be surprised if the Patriots won this game. I don't think I'm going to play it that way, but nothing would surprise me. I think we got to lean on the under probably here. And if you want to get really different in any of these big contests, maybe you stack up, four stack with the Patriots. I don't know if I'm going to play it that way. I might just eat the chalk, stack the hell out of these good players from the Jets and just kind of move on. All right, let's get into the show. What is up, guys? Welcome to the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith, joined by Ellie Hernandez. Ellie, first few weeks of football. I mean, can you believe it? We're already week 3 already. Like, it's crazy. First few weeks of football, I haven't hit big or even had a shot to ship any of these. I'm hoping to turn that around here soon. We got a lot of injuries in the NFL. It's pretty crazy. This game, I don't know why the NFL wants to put the Patriots on primetime. Like, I know that they're a little bit better, like they won week 1. They were in it last week. They took that game to overtime. I just don't want to watch the Patriots play football, man. I am into the Jets, though, in this game. Like, they haven't played well this season, so it's a little concerning, but I think they break out of that. I think a guy like Garrett Wilson eventually breaks out of that and starts turning in massive games. I don't know that this is the game that it happens, though, man. So what are your just general thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, this is probably one of the premier, most exciting matchups that we're going to get all season long. Just two very explosive teams. No, I'm kidding, man. Not excited about this. I think Gerard Mayo has done a good job, though, just getting the Patriots team back on track. I will say that they are performing a little bit better than I expected them to. I don't think people give Jacoby Brissett enough credit as a kind of a journeyman backup and
Yeah.
just placeholder. Now, I don't know how much, I don't know if you want him going 7, 8, 9, 10 games a season. He'll start to get kind of bogged down and teams will figure him out. But I think he's fine. And again, in a division matchup, right? I think it's I think it's okay to think that both teams are going to be a little bit more conservative. That said, who knows what we're going to see out of the Jets? Honestly, it feels like they've been underperforming with the weapons they have over the past couple of weeks. Obviously, week 1 they ended up losing that game. Last week to only put up 17 points against the Titans is kind of I don't know. I just expect a little bit more out of them. I do think that they're going to click, but to your point, I think it is relying on what happens with Garrett Wilson. Like, we need to see him come out of his shell a little bit. Feels like he hasn't been getting the same volume or just participation in the passing game like he did last year.
Yeah, man. I think they scored like probably at least 24 in that game. Still not impressive. Yeah, two touchdowns by the backup running back here. I don't know. I'm blanking on his name right now. Braylon.
Oh yeah, Braylon Allen.
Braylon Allen. I blocked it out of my head because I had like 80% Brees Hall. So that kind of pissed me off. But anyways, this is a 6-point total or a 6-point spread here for the Jets. It might be a 6-point total. I mean, I don't know what to expect in this one. 38.5-point total here. I mean, dude, like, how many of these Thursday night shows have we done? And especially considering this is early in the year still, these teams are still trying to figure things out. How many of these games have we done on Thursday night where you just stack both defenses, you grab a kicker or two, you close your eyes and pray? I don't think it's going to be that way, but like on paper, Both of these defenses are really good. The Jets defense has definitely underperformed, but are they going to, figure it out? And this would be a good week to do it against a not so good offense here. What do we think about this total? Like, when you see a total like this, how different do we want to get? Do we want to completely bucket and start stacking pass games? Like, how crazy do you want to get with a total like this, or do you just embrace the defenses?
Yeah, man, I think you got to kind of just embrace just what the game script implies. I think the Patriots want to run the ball, so I think it's going to be really hard to come off Ramondre Stevenson, Jesus, and Antonio Gibson or whomever. But we just don't know who they want to involve in the pass game. So I like for deep GPPs, I think you can take stabs in the wide receivers, but outside of that, man, like I think we're pretty concentrated on the New England side, and then the Jets. Like I think we saw what Seattle can do against the Patriots defense. If the Jets if the Patriots aren't able to dominate time of possession and they leave Aaron Rodgers on the field, there's just too many weapons. Brees Hall is too goddamn fast, man. Like watching some of his plays last week, he's just such an explosive back. Like I don't know that you're going to be able to keep him. Garrett Wilson, Lazard's getting involved, and Mike Williams is coming back. Like there's this offense is getting healthy, man. I don't know if the Patriots are going to be able to keep on this game very long if they don't dominate the time of possession. But that said, it kind of builds a game script itself. If you think this stays under, that means the Patriots probably dominate time of possession. You kind of stick to the track your builds, defenses, kickers from that perspective.
I'm just going to come out with a bold take right now. I think you could fade Ramondre Stevenson. I know that sounds crazy, but he's going to be 70% owned, 65, 70% owned. And, maybe he just has a 50 yards and a touchdown. Is that enough at that price? I don't know, man. Like I'm not going to necessarily fade him. I don't think I'm going to do it, but I might fade him in the captain spot and see what happens. I don't know. All right, so let's move on here. It seems like the weather should be fine. Let's just jump into injuries here. Hit the sound.
Yeah, just pain. It was pain everywhere.
All right, so let's start with the Patriots. You got Bentley, their linebacker, out. There's not a whole. I mean, there's clearly some good players here, but fantasy-wise, we're not waiting on any news, thankfully here. So let's move on to the Jets. You got Jermaine Johnson is out, one of their pass rushers. Looks like Brees Hall did show up on the injury report, but he was full practice all week. He doesn't have a designation. Michael Carter, their slot corner. He doesn't have a designation. He was limited earlier in the week, but he seems to be fine now. DJ Reed, knee injury, full practice the past few days, no designation. That's huge. So, I mean, there's not really, thankfully, there's not a lot of news to talk about here as far as injuries go. I don't think we're waiting on any like potential inactives or anything like that. So it feels like we could almost start building comfortably. Like I don't like doing that because whenever I do that, some random dude, some like random major receiver or running back just gets unexpectedly ruled out. But anything jump out to you here besides just the X's and O's? Fantasy wise, anything concerning or I mean, we got to really pay attention to here to DJ Reed and Carter coming back. That's huge.
Yeah. I mean, obviously DJ Reed is back. That helps the defense, but I think that just gives I think that might just support your theory of potentially being able to fade Ramondre Stevenson, right? If the Jets have a healthy defense, I think it gives them, especially those corners, it gives them ability to stack the box a little bit more and key in on Ramondre Stevenson. I mean, they're not guarding all pro wide receivers out there on their own. I think they can handle that on the outside. Outside of that, man, again, I just think that this is probably just a tough matchup for the Patriots in general, just regardless of the injuries, even with C.J. Mosley potentially being out and some of these injuries that the Jets have.
Yeah, and speaking of injuries, so Mike Williams, week 1, we knew he was going to be kind of limited. Last week, he got 37 snaps. Is this a game where he's back? I mean, he had one big catch on the sidelines. Dude, I think we can, if he's on the field all the time, it's Mike Williams, man. You just need one play out of this dude. And considering they got to keep an eye on Garrett Wilson, they got to keep an eye on Breece Hall, they got to keep an eye on, if they bring in a fast guy like Gibson, dude, he just jumps out to me as like a really good captain option. In every single Showdown video we've ever done, if Mike Williams is playing, he's a captain kind of guy or potential fade in the flex. If he hits, he's going to hit big. So while we're talking about injuries here, you got a guy coming back from injury. He looks like he's at full strength. He hasn't gotten massively involved. He was running a lot of wind sprints last week. But like I said, man, he's very appealing to me because I don't know that everyone's going to be comfortable playing with him considering he hasn't really done anything.
Yeah, I mean, I like Mike Williams. I've always liked Mike Williams, and he's priced nicely, and you're probably going to get a discount on ownership. To your point, he was just running the sprints last week. But this is a good opportunity for him. You can't cover everybody. You got Breece Hall out there. You got Alan Lazard's been having a pretty good year this year. So, I mean, it's pretty hard to not keep an eye on him if you're looking at him from a defensive perspective, right? So, to your point, Mike Williams, even if he's getting only in 75-80% route participation, he just has a lot of upside with Aaron Rodgers, man. I bet he's excited to be in that offense, to be honest with you.
Last thing to talk about here, this is more of a mental injury. Jalen Reagor got released for posting a photo of a Bugatti in like a trailer park or something. He got released immediately after that. That's kind of funny. Let's see here. So let's just briefly, I know we're in the injuries here, but before we jump into the breakdown here, looking at Thursday night matchup between Patriots and Jets, target share wise, the Patriots are horrendous. Osborne 17%, Polk 8.5, Douglas and Thornton 6.4. You got Henry, Hooper. They run a lot of 12 personnel, so we could see Hooper as an option. But I think I'm not going to put more than two of these wide receivers in my lineup. Now, of course, I'm going to say that, and they're going to go off. There's going to be two dudes that go off. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to waste my lineups with Polk and Osborne. I'm not going to do it. I'll get to Henry and Polk or something like that, but I'm not putting two of these wide receivers in my lineups here. All right, let's jump into this. I mean, the Pats defense here has been pretty good against the run, 3.3 yards per carry the first 2 weeks, and their run offense has been massive. Last week Antonio Gibson with only 11 carries got 96 yards. We're gonna have to talk about that here in the breakdown. Let's get into it. Break it down. All right, so Aaron Rodgers is 10K, Jacoby Brissett is 9K, Drake May is priced up to 8,800. Now that means something to me. I'm not gonna, I wouldn't, if he was announced starting and he was 8,800, I probably wouldn't play him. But if you're getting a quarterback that's 1% owned that could come in the second half if they're underperforming, to me, I'm going to jokingly hand build a lineup into the big contest and throw him in there just so I can share it in the Discord. But there's no reason to really focus on that. But bringing that up as far as, Drake may be in a possible play, I think that just kind of goes to show that Jacoby Brissett, while hasn't made a lot of mistakes, they came close to winning 2 games. He's a veteran guy, like you were saying in the opening. At a certain point, he's going to get replaced. I mean, they're just going to have to try out Drake May. I don't know when that's going to be. Either way, even if I think there's like a chance of a benching, I'm not going to massively overthink that. But to me, he's just not a very good play at 9K. If he was in the 8K range, maybe. I know he's a guy that's touching the ball all the time. If they do any goal line opportunities, he could get a rushing touchdown, which would be devastating if you don't have him. Potentially, because he could end up with 12, 13 fantasy points, and with a 38 total, that might do it for you. I just don't love Brissett. I don't think anybody loves Brissett. He's coming in at 30% owned in the flex, maybe 5% in the captain. I think SaberSim, on my builds early, I had to limit him because I think his ownership is just so low. I think the raw points are there, so he was getting into a lot of my builds when I was messing around. I don't know, dude. I think Aaron Rodgers at 10K, I think you just can't avoid it. I'm going to embrace him. I know this defense is pretty good, but I'm going to embrace him. I just don't think I'm going to really mess with Jacoby Brissett. I could just unclick him altogether. What do you think?
Yeah, so Aaron Rodgers, I like him at the flex, and honestly, at 10K, I think he's a fine captain option too. Again, now's the time to kind of take advantage of some of these captain or these quarterback prices. Some of these prices will start shifting. You're going to get closer to like 10,500 or 700, right? But I agree with you on Jacoby Brissett. If it wasn't week 3, if this was closer to week 7 or 8, I'd say there's a good chance that we'd see Drake May. I think one of the reasons why you're seeing issues with them being able to push the ball down the field is because you have Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, right? One of his limitations is kind of his ability to spread the field in the passing game, right? That's what we see from these backup quarterbacks. Eventually, you start seeing the accuracy issues creep up. They not being able to throw the ball downfield like a top 32 quarterback in the NFL would.
Yeah, Josh Dobbs.
But again, it does. Yeah, exactly. Like Josh Dobbs. Like, I mean, the Cardinals fans were looking at a year ago, right? And Josh Dobbs looked excellent. Come week 3, week 4, you're like, oh shit, what were we talking about? Right. So like it's there's limited game film. Brissett maybe not necessarily limited game film with the team as the one. So again, we're talking about something that doesn't matter more until week 7 or 8. But what I'm trying to say is that I'm just not high on Brissett. I think the 30%, 35% of the field playing him, you're better off. Like, yeah, it is a leverage point, but you can get 30% leverage just by fading him entirely, right? So that's probably where I'm going to go. If I lose because Jacoby Brissett beats me, I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what the Jets want anyways, right? Like, so that's kind of that's an optimal game plan in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, no reason to talk much more about Aaron Rodgers. If he gets 15 fantasy points and just has an average day, I feel like that could be enough. But if you wanted to come in under on him and play the run game, play a wide receiver, from each team and throw a defense in, I wouldn't be upset about that. All right, let's move on to running backs here. Start with the Jets. So Breece Hall's 11.8K. He's expensive, man. This is a tough defense, tough matchup. I do think he can get involved in many ways. It seems like they're doing some 2 running back sets. With Braylon Allen and Breece Hall, put one of them in motion. If it's just Breece Hall out there, they put him in motion, put him out wide. We saw that touchdown where Aaron Rodgers kind of saw the matchup. He signaled over to Breece Hall, and they had that touchdown. They're a great catch by Breece Hall. So he can be used in a lot of different ways. He's like poor man's Christian McCaffrey. At this point, I don't even think that he's poor man's. I think he's just a healthy Christian McCaffrey at this point. I know he's got to prove it. I know he's got to put together some big seasons, but he's got the talent. That's my point. I think these two guys are interesting. Braylon Allen, because he had a big game last week, he wasn't a huge factor as far as being on the field a ton, but 5,200, he got priced way up. I don't know if I'm super interested in him, but I'm going to have to get to some of him because I think he will be on the field with these 2 running back sets, and they'll throw him little screen passes. He can probably get you 5-6 fantasy points pretty easily, just by dump offs. But I think his ownership will be up there because he got 2 touchdowns last week. Dudes sitting on their couch see his name, they look at his last week and they throw him in. I'm just not super interested. What are we doing with these running backs here, man? I feel like I'm always hyped on Breece, and I feel like he's probably going to have a 16, 17, 18 fantasy point day, maybe make the optimal, but he's so damn expensive, it really changes the way you build your lineups.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think looking at the price tag, it's easy to balk at just getting too much Breece. But the way that he's being used in this offense, he's also the number 1 wide receiver at this point. I know that Garrett Wilson is the man; he's a stud. But they're getting the ball out to Breece Hall, and they're getting the ball to him a lot in the passing game. And for fantasy guys, that's all we care about, right? Especially for running backs and being able to run the ball. If he's getting 17 to 18 carries, and then he's getting 6 to 7 targets and receptions per game, that's a dream for a volume, right? That's wide receiver 1.5, 2 on a decent team.
Yeah.
and your number one running back. So I think 11-8 might be priced too low for what we're seeing, right? He's putting up 17 to 20 fantasy points just by being alive on the field. Like, remember, him and Garrett Wilson, they were doing what they were doing last year without Aaron Rodgers. That was with Zach Wilson and just whomever was back there throwing the ball, right? I could have been back there and they were scoring touchdowns, right? So I think that's what we got to keep in mind. This offense is going to get better. It's going to get more consistent. And they love Breece Hall. They're going to continue feeding him. And I honestly think it's more likely that he ends up having like an explosive game than he does having a game where he busts, right? Like, I think you could easily see 25, 30 fantasy points out of him. No problem on Thursday night.
All right, let's move over.
The other guys are cool too.
Yeah, Izzy, I'm sure Isaiah Davis will be inactive or Izzy will be inactive. Braylon is a guy I'll probably just get to the field with just because I'm scared. That's probably it. All right. And if he, like, I wish we were talking about this show when he didn't just score 2 touchdowns, because he probably would have been like 2,200 or something. All right, let's go. So Ramondre Stevenson at 11.4K, Antonio Gibson 3,600. Man, Antonio Gibson at 3,600 is very interesting. You think of Antonio Gibson, you think of Washington, you think of him as the third down back, you think of him getting targets out of the backfield. He hasn't really gotten targets this year. He's been running the ball. And Ramondre Stevenson is the guy that's getting the targets, and he's getting all the volume in the run game. I don't know how you avoid Ramondre Stevenson, like, if you're thinking logically. If you're thinking like me and all I care about is, fade, like figuring out who I want to fade on this slate, I think he's an option. I don't think I'm going to do it in the flex because I think his volume is so high, just like what we talked about with Breece Hall. But maybe he just has a 16, 15-point game and you fade him in the captain spot just to pick up 15% leverage there on all his lineups. I don't know, man. Talk me into playing Ramondre Stevenson. I don't want to play a ton of him because of his massive ownership, but my brain is telling me you got to play some of them. He's 11.4K. You just got to get him, right?
Yeah, I think there's a middle ground here. I just think because his ownership is so massive, we know that there's going to be a good chunk of lineups that are going to be chalky as hell. So maybe you just remove some of those from your builds and focus on getting creative with them. But here's the thing, right? If the Patriots want to win this game, it's going to be because they ran the ball effectively, right? It's going to be because Ramondre Stevenson had 18 carries, Antonio Gibson had 11. They both rushed for over 100 yards. Ramondre Stevenson had 7-8 receptions, right? Like, that's how they win this game. And I'm telling you right now, that's what they're going to try and do. They're going to try to run the ball as often as they can. They're going to have 2 tight ends on the field the whole game, and they're just going to try and run the ball, man. Like, yeah. I think I just don't know how you avoid it, right? And again, just similar to what we were saying about Breece Hall, because he gets involved in the pass game, Jacoby Brissett doesn't have the ability to push the ball downfield. There's so much inconsistency at the wide receiver position that, and he could end up with 6, 7, 8 receptions on dump off passes because Jacoby doesn't want to die, So, there's just a lot of garbage upside points that you can get from a guy like him too. And then I don't think I need to convince you to play Antonio Gibson at 3,600. Oh, yeah. You and I have been playing him since he's been in the league.
For decades, it feels. It's funny that you mentioned Brissett can't push the ball down the field. You're right. He can't, but he's got one of the best arms in the league. I mean, the dude has played more snaps on Hail Marys as the backup than anybody else, it feels like. All right, let's go to wide receivers. Oh, man, do we have to talk about this? Patriots wide receivers. Look at these salaries, dude. The highest priced dude, Pop Douglas, 4,200. KJ Osborne, 3,200. Jalen Polk, the rookie, 4K. He got a touchdown last week. Tyquan Thornton, 1,600. I don't know, dude. I think you set a rule to max one of these guys. It doesn't feel like there's going to be an opportunity for 2 of these dudes to massively go off. Maybe we get a long Demario Douglas touchdown or something random, and then it's all Ramondre Stevenson, it's all Hunter Henry, it's all Antonio Gibson. I just don't feel good about getting to a lot of these guys. I think you have to get to some though. Like I wouldn't fade this position altogether. It's a Thursday night game. It's a showdown slate. We know something weird's going to happen. Usually it happens with the tight ends, but I feel like Javon Baker scoring 2 touchdowns or something stupid like that is in play. What are we doing here, man? Like, who's your favorite guy here, too? Like, is that even an answerable question?
Yeah, it's probably Demario Douglas. To be honest with you, I think they were trying to get him going as the one, wide receiver one last year, but who really knows in this offense? Outside of that, like I'm not too high on any of these guys. But I do think if you want to get creative, if you do have like a gut feeling, if Jalen Polk's going to have another touchdown like he did last week, these prices and just some of the ways some of the high end prices are grouped on this slate, they give you some flexibility if you really want to take a stab at captain. Nobody's going to have Jalen Polk at captain. Nobody's going to have Mario Douglas, right? Like, I mean, we've been talking shit about the passing game this entire show. So, like, I mean, you may have like 1 or 2%. I'm not saying go and build the chalkiest build of that, but I do think you have a little bit of flexibility and you can build a game script that makes sense with one of these guys at captain. But honestly, that was probably way too much talking about this wide receiver core. I'll just have max of one. Maybe if I get a bunch of lineups in, I have a couple in at captain. But that's it.
If you wanted to be an absolute psychopath, you could put Jalen Polk at captain, stack Brissett, stack Hunter Henry, put Ramondre Stevenson, run it back with 2 Jets. If you like to burn money or potentially just hit the random lottery, that could be a decent like bullet into the big contest. All right, let's go to the other side. This is a lot more fun to talk about, actually. Garrett Wilson, 10.2K. I'm not quitting on Garrett Wilson. I said it in that first show. I think this year he's going to have a massive year. I think it's coming. I don't know when. I don't know if it's this week. But look at all these weapons that they have. I mean, I wouldn't call Lazard a weapon, but he did have 2 touchdowns the other game. So, like, there's a lot of guys to guard. You got Mike Williams, who can absolutely take the top off. Big play, boomer bust type guy. 6,200. He looks like he's healthy. Xavier Gipson, he hasn't really been involved this year, like at all, basically. But we know that he, maybe they're using Braylon Allen, in the backfield. I don't know what they're doing here with Gipson, but it feels like he's always a low-owned dart, and I just can't get over. I just can't not play him on a slate. I don't know why. He's 2K. He's not super cheap, but he's a nice value. Malachi Corley at 1,200. I know you were talking about him on that first slate. Probably an okay option to throw into like 1 or 2 lineups or something at 2% ownership. All right, so Garrett Wilson here. Here's the biggest question: is we're probably not like it's going to be hard. I'm going to do it, but it's going to be hard to comfortably build with Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall in the same lineup unless you punt a captain or something like that. What are we doing with Garrett Wilson? Because I am going to go massively in on him. I just think he's one of these receivers that I don't care what the matchup is, you just play him.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think people are just overthinking him. I think his numbers haven't been staggering so far in these first 2 games, but just keep telling yourself he has an Aaron Rodgers this season. At some point, it is going to click. So, yeah, I'm going to do the same role that we had the last time we did a show with these guys. I'm going to have a min one Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. Right, I'm not even going to risk it. I'm just going to have one of those 2 in every single lineup.
Yeah, and it feels like with Mike Williams, I mean, Lazard will get his run, but it feels like Mike Williams is going to clearly take on that outside role. I still think you can play Lazard, but him only being $400 more, Mike Williams, I'm going to take a lot of stabs at him at captain. Anybody else to talk about here? Talk me out of playing Xavier Gipson. I don't even know if he's going to see the field besides return game.
So look, Xavier Gipson. I don't know much to say. I think probably eventually we're going to see a little bit more Malachi Corley, but who knows? So I want to go back to the Allen Lazard comment though. So one thing that we could see, Allen Lazard knows the offense better than anybody else, other than really Aaron Rodgers, right? This is Nathaniel Hackett's offense. He's been in the offense for a while. That's one of the reasons why we've seen him get so comfortable. Or get some of these touchdowns in the first weeks. He knows where to be. He knows where he's supposed to be in this offense. So I think it's important to account for when you're thinking of different game scripts. If this is still just like Aaron Rodgers feeling his way out with these new wide receivers, and you think Garrett Wilson comes under, I do think Allen Lazard is an interesting play to kind of get a little bit of leverage off of just some of the higher owned guys. But outside of that, man, like I don't know if I'm going to get into Gibson, Charles, or Corley. I think what we saw last week from Mike Williams, just in his snap count and just general participation, he's going to get involved a little bit more. I think we'll probably be seeing closer to 50 snaps from him this week. What would you say he had? Like 30, 35, or was that routes?
No, that
Was that actual
was
route
snap.
participation?
37 snaps.
Okay. Yeah, I
So
mean, I would expect them to up that, and I mean, we've seen it. He needs 2 receptions for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns or whatever,
yep,
and he can get that really quickly.
yep. All right, let's go to tight end. So Conklin's actually cheaper than he was last week, 2,800. He hasn't really been getting involved. I think he's a decent option though at 2,800. I mean, he was pretty high owned. I think he'll be pretty high owned in this one because of his price. Ruckert, it's a showdown slate. He's 6% owned. He's $800. Hell yeah, I'll have some of him. Not a lot, but some. What are we doing with these tight ends here for the Jets? It feels like there's so many weapons. I feel like we got like maybe a couple of opportunities for Conklin, maybe one target in the red zone, and if he doesn't hit that, it's going to be one or two fantasy points. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're playing the 150 max, I think he needs to be in your player pool. You got to have a little bit of exposure to him. 20 max, maybe 1 or 2 lineups at most. Single entry, probably don't need him. You probably find better value elsewhere. But I mean, honestly, he's not terrible value overall at 2,800. But to your point, he does need to get some actual work. He hasn't been getting much involvement in the offense, and I can't blame Aaron Rodgers. He's got Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall, and all these other guys on the team.
All right, let's
Fuck would
move
you throw to
on.
Conklin for?
Yeah, it's so true. All right, let's move on to New England. All right, so Hunter Henry at 7,800, man. He feels like, last week he had a ton of targets. I don't even let me look here what his targets were. It was a lot. Where is he? 7,800. 12 targets, 8 receptions, 109 yards. It feels like we can't avoid him. It feels like he's kind of the number one guy with all these wide receivers. I feel like he's option number 2 on this team. If you're stacking multiple Patriots, you probably want to get to Hunter Henry at 7,800. It's a pretty decent captain option. I think he'll probably be, let's check his captain ownership, 2% owned. Yeah, I'm going to get to some Hunter Henry, man. And this team runs a lot of 12 personnel, 2 tight ends on the field. They're going to run the ball. You got Austin Hooper at 2,400, red zone, 1 catch. That you're going to feel pretty good about yourself. Although he is kind of priced up, I actually didn't even really. I figured he was going to be way cheaper than that. 2,400. That probably is not a good price for him. So what are we doing with these tight ends, man? Just focusing on Hunter Henry. Are you setting rules with any of this stuff? Like if you're doing like onslaughts, are you trying to get Ramondre or Hunter Henry in your lineups?
Honestly, I think SaberSim's smarter than some of the other optimizers we've used in the past. I think it's just going to give us Hunter Henry for the most part. But yeah, no, if it's not, then I will up my Hunter Henry exposure. And frankly, I don't mind Austin Hooper either. To your point, they're going to be running a lot of 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets. It's just going to help them run the ball better. And we know Austin Hooper does have the ability to get involved in the pass game. So I honestly think Ramondre Stevenson, Hunter Henry, those are my 2 top plays from the Patriots. It's not necessarily a bold take. And then Austin Hooper might be up there in like the top 4. I don't know. I might put, I don't know who I would put ahead of him, to be honest with you.
Antonio Gibson and then Austin Hooper. That's how bad this
Yeah.
offense can be. All right, let's go to defense and kickers. So this is more relevant than any show we've done this year. Thursday night game, sloppy, early in the season, low total, division rivalry. It screams defenses and kickers. Joey Sly's 4,800. Greg Zuerlein, Greg the Leg is 5K. You get 3, you get a 2 50-yarders from Greg the Leg, a 40-yarder, and 2 extra points or an extra point. I mean, you're going to have him. So, and I think all their ownership is going to be relatively, decent. 25-30% owned. What are we doing here, man? The Jets defense is 5,400. Patriots defense is 4,400. Are you setting any rules? Are you just kind of letting SaberSim cook? Are you trying to maybe go opposite of the field where we think that probably at least the Jets defense is going to be pretty high owned? But I don't have any problem playing the Patriots defense either, even though we know Aaron Rodgers doesn't usually turn the ball over a ton. This is a Thursday night game, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Thursday night game, it's a short week and division rivalry, right? So, again, to your point, I think both defenses are in play, even the Patriots. Um, I'm going to have both in my player pool. I'm going to have both field goal kickers in my player pool. Normally, I do set rules so that I don't get two kickers or two defenses, but this isn't a game that I'm going to do that on. If I end up with a little bit more of these guys than I thought I was going to get, I'm not going to be too upset. I just, again, for the Patriots to win, they need to run the ball and control time possession. And then again, the Jets defense is just good. If Aaron Rodgers goes off, then I still see this being something closer, 23 to 9, right? You were talking about it earlier. If the Jets defense dominates this, 23 to 9 might be enough, 24 to 10 or whatever,
Yeah.
and the Jets defense still isn't optimal. Patriots might even still get there. So yeah, man, all four of these be in my player pool. I'm not going to have any crazy rules for this group this time.
All right, let's move on to our crown their ass, our favorite captain, tournament captain on DraftKings.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Ellie, you're going Stevenson. I'm riding Wilson. I'm gonna go there again. It's obviously one of the best plays on the slate, Stevenson, just on paper. But the fact that he's going to be pretty damn high owned, I feel like I'm going to probably fade a captain, embracing the flex. Hope he has a not so great game, just a average game. Tell me I'm crazy with Wilson here, man. I just, is it just me just trying to prove that I'm smart because in the first show I was heavy on him? Am I just denying the fact that this might not be the best matchup for him? Because I'm going to play a ton of them.
Yeah, I don't know, man. He's one of the top 5, 6 wide receivers in the league. I don't we got a couple ahead of him. But you got to play Garrett Wilson, captain, man. I'm going to have a pretty decent amount of him myself. He's got Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball. I think I've already said it. Press the button. He's got a new quarterback. It's not Zach Wilson anymore, and he's gone off for 1,000 every season. And then to your point, Stevenson, obviously a solid play, just given the projected volume. If you're going to be playing him a captain, though, you do need a line full of his chalkiness. You're going to have to play lineups that might be a little bit more different than you're used to. I think that's really what I'm going to be doing if I target Stevenson. When I target Stevenson a captain, I'm not going to be running him for I'm not going to run him in the Millie Maker with or the 500K to first with the chalkiest build I can get.
All right, let's move on to our Kime. We can't say the name because YouTube gets mad at us. Kime time. These are players that we probably shouldn't be playing, but we will. Who's your Kime time pick?
No other than Steve Kime. I'm like, come on, bro.
Yeah, I actually think I'm going to stick with Malachi Corley, man. He has just that game breaking speed, and I do think they're going to give him the opportunity to take the top off one of these times. So I'm going to go with Malachi Corley.
I'm surprised it wasn't Austin Hooper. That's probably your next option. I'm going Xavier Gibson, man. He's 2K. I don't know. He might not see the field, but I can't quit you. I just can't. I'm excited when he's on the field. All right, let's move on to lineups here. Let's hand build a few lineups. Let's start with Cash. Throw us a like, guys. Let's get us to 50 likes on this video. Subscribe. We're doing Thursday and Monday night shows this year. Jump in the Discord, all that fun stuff. So this is Ramondre Stevenson, captain for single entry, $50, $100 single entry where there's not a ton of entries. It's less of a GPP. We can be safer. It's Hall or Stevenson probably. Do you want to do Stevenson in this one?
Yeah.
All right. Oops. I should probably go to captain. All right. So get Aaron Rodgers. Do we want Aaron Rodgers here or do we want to go Hall and Wilson? here?
I honestly think it's Hall and Rogers for cash for single entry.
All right. 3,700. We're screwed. Antonio Gibson.
Yeah,
Is that crazy? Kyler, stop.
I don't think so.
Stop licking your paws, man. A French bulldog sounds like a freaking alligator back there. All right, Gibson. I mean, dude, this is not possible. Like, we can't do
All right,
this.
hear me out. Throw in Gibson and Hooper.
Gibson and Hooper. All right.
Yeah, we're the worst at cash lineups.
I know.
And then what does that give us?
Mike Williams. This is Jets defense. You leave some money on the table.
What if? So pull out Hooper, I guess. What the hell, Gibson? What? That's the wrong Gibson, man. We want Antonio Gibson.
That's all right. We're leaving. I'm excited, man. I'm excited about him. Hooper. Hang on a second.
Can we get a?
Yeah, you could still get the defenses or kickers, so it didn't make a ton of difference.
Okay.
Hey, stop it. Go ahead.
I just throw in what's his face, Hunter Henry, and let's just see if we can get to a lineup we like from here.
I don't think we can. I mean, yeah, we can't. Can't. Do you want to fade Rodgers in this lineup?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Who do we? Okay, so maybe it's Stevenson, Rogers, Wilson, and we fade Brees. I don't like that at all, though.
yeah, does buy us a little bit more room here. You can get.
You still have to punt, don't you?
I mean, it feels like.
I guess you got 24 picks.
Here, let's do this. Let's go a defense. So you want to do the Jets defense? Well,
Okay, that works.
It's not really buying us much. I mean, it's just still damn expensive. It feels like they're gonna be high owned. It's a $5,400 defense. It feels, man, it just feels like it feels wrong. But I'm gonna have to get to some kicker here.
Yeah.
Austin Hooper.
Austin Hooper.
Gibson.
That's fun.
Yeah, hang on a second. Let me get this damn dog out of here. 1 second. Talk about how much this lineup sucks.
I don't even know who you said sucks, but I can just start listing people that are bad at football. I mean, Jeremy Ruckert, we can start right there. Dude dropped the touchdown, dropped a pretty significant target. $800 though for a dude that sucks. I'll probably end up playing him a little bit, especially if this is what our lineups are going to look like. Tyquan Thornton, he kind of sucks too, but I was hoping he would be fast. I didn't know what you said, so I just started listing people that sucked at football.
Pretty much. All right, so obviously, look, let's just skip the cash because I don't feel good about it. I'm gonna let Saber build it for me anyways. Do you want to?
I do have a real quick idea. How many carries did Antonio Gibson get last week? He had like 9.
He had 11.
Yeah, almost 100 yards
11.
or something.
Yeah.
11. Okay, so like this is a dumb game script type thing, but I don't hate for single entry putting Antonio Gibson in the captain, and then let's see what we can do here. Dude, if he gets 75 yards on 12 carries and 2 receptions, this might work.
Yeah.
Can we get a kicker in defense?
We can. Let's see. Yeah, we should be able to. 5,400. Do you want to? Let's see. What do we got? Two. We got a 3-2 here. Do you want to do 3-3? You want to get Sly or Greg the Leg?
Greg, Sly, whoever's on New England, right?
Sly.
Sly. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
3-3.
I mean, Hall, Stevenson. I mean, you could take Hall out, go with Wilson potentially. I don't know, dude. I mean, this is a great GPP lineup.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's do that. So let's skip building with these expensive dudes. Let's just grab Mike Williams right off the bat. All right. So what's the game script here? Aaron Rodgers. Mike Williams has 3 receptions for 2 touchdowns and 93 yards. You put Aaron Rodgers in the flex with him. We fade. You want to fade Garrett Wilson here? I mean, it would be interesting to get Garrett Wilson as well for the volume. Mike Williams gets the deep passes. He's boom or bust, and then you get 10, 11 targets for Wilson. That would be an interesting build for sure. But what do we do here?
Let's actually go ahead and do that because we're going to play a lot of Stevenson anyway. So why don't we just do that and then throw in Stevenson next and see where we're at.
All right, so you could do kicker. You got 4,500. So this is where we should probably, I mean, what do you think about doing like Stevenson and Gibson and then throwing in Jets defense?
I actually really like that lineup.
That's kind of weird.
If you don't like Jets defense too, this might be one of the few lineups where I'd actually be comfortable running Braylon Allen.
Yeah,
like that's really weird, but it also fits the Breece Hall fade.
Yeah, absolutely does. Let's switch out Wilson in this one. Go Breece Hall. Let's see what that does for us. It gets us Conklin, Hooper, Gibson. So you're punting here a little bit more, but Mike Williams captains are kind of decent, kind of fun builds. All right, do you want to build it with anybody else?
Let's build a for a fun lineup since Hunter Henry is essentially going to be the same thing. Let's throw Austin Hooper in a captain.
If this is a low total game, man, and Hooper gets a touchdown at that price, you never know. All right, so you want to fade quarterbacks here? Do you want, like, I don't know, what's your thought behind this lineup?
Let's do that. Let's fade quarterbacks. Throw in Breece, Stevenson, Garrett. Do both defenses. Why not?
I don't mind it. It's kind of weird.
Super weird. This is just for fun, guys. We're probably not going to run this.
All right, so what did we learn, man? Like, it feels like this game could go a lot of different ways, but I think it's pretty obvious that this is probably going to just be a 24-10 type Jets win. It wouldn't shock me if the Patriots somehow won this game randomly. I just don't see it happen, man. What do you think about the outcome of this game, and what did you learn when building? It feels like we're going to have to make some tough decisions, but this is a game where I don't mind not playing Breece Hall in the lineup. I don't mind not playing Stevenson at captain. I don't mind fading some of these big dudes because it feels like there's just not going to be a ton of offense.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I learned is just reminding myself that when we have a bunch of concentrated ownership, we know who's going to be played a whole bunch, right? It's a little bit easier to get different without risking too much your pool, right? So you only need a couple lineups that are a little bit different, and sometimes it's as different as playing Garrett Wilson a couple more times instead of Breece Hall, right? And on a slate like that's probably fine. So. That's the big thing, man. I'm kind of just excited to see the Jets get a little bit more comfortable with their offense. I don't like Aaron Rodgers in particular, but I kind of do. I do like Hall and Garrett Wilson. I just want to see them kind of do well. So I'm just looking forward to the game.
I would love it if the Jets blew them out and the Jets went on a run this year. They won their division and they made a run in the playoffs. It'd be entertaining at minimum. It would be for sure. All right, we'll see you guys later. Throw us a like on the way out. See you in the Discord.